I'm almost at the place now where if somebody was to walk into my workshop and I was to show them how this is supposed to work, they could almost understand what I'm talking about. Anyway, this wheel that is almost finished is supposed to drive this wheel. Now the idea is that at no place will there be friction. Every single place where there normally would be friction, there will be a bearing. There will be a bearing mounted on here and another one mounted on this side, and they will be driven by this as it turns. This is the escapement wheel, okay? Well, I guess it'll go this way. I'm not sure. It doesn't matter. And this wheel will drive this one. And the idea is, see, I've got a little bearing in there, and you can see there's a bit of a problem. The teeth are too close together, but I've got a solution for that. Okay, so these bearings have to be spaced all the way around here in just the right spot. And that's what I'm going to be doing next. And the idea is this wheel will turn, the big wheel will turn the smaller wheel. Smaller wheel will drive the anchor. The anchor will drive the balance wheel. That was the first thing we made about a month ago. Anyway, you can kind of see how it's going to go. Now you might be thinking, well, what kind of wheel is going to drive this? Well, it will be a wheel, but it'll be a stationary wheel. This will also have bearings all the way around, which will catch on teeth on the bigger wheel. And the bigger wheel will be stationary. The teeth will be on the inside, and this whole mechanism will be rotating around on the inside. Now that's the plan. Things don't always turn out as planned, but we'll hope for the best here. Anyway, next thing I've got to do here is figure out, the right spacing, the right radius to mount these bearings on. And I'm not going to, use this as a sample. I think what I'll do is take a piece of scrap, and I'll do it the way I drew it out in the computer, and then I can go from there. I can either make it bigger or smaller. Well, it can't get too much smaller, because if they're too close together, then the teeth won't get in between. But anyway, I think I can figure it out here. That's the next step. When I was gluing the paper onto the scrap wood here, I was really putting the glue on thick. And I got the paper a little bit, you might say, on the soggy side. And I think possibly the paper got a bit out of round or stretched more one way than the other. I was pretty sure that center hole was drilled in the right place. But, well, I'm going to explain here in a second. Well, I did pretty good. Some of them, like over here on the other side, I noticed that the hole is a little bit this way, but the distance from the holes to the fulcrum will be identical, and that's kind of important. Good enough for a sample anyway. Now I don't want to be shoving that in too far, because I am going to want to pull these out later. I want to tell you a story, and if you understand this story, you'll understand why I'm going to be mounting the bearings the way I am going to be mounting them. This story I heard way back. I was probably only about 10 years old, but I remember it, and it makes a lot of sense. It was just after the Second World War, and the story was going around that the one country that made their army tanks with great precision actually had a lot more breakdowns than the country that made their army tanks and just sort of slapped them together like an old farm tractor. And the story went that if the army tank that was very precisely made got, you might say, bent out of shape, it didn't have to get bent out of shape a whole lot, and it would come to a grinding stop because stuff jammed. Whereas the one that was made, you might say, sloppily, it just kept going. Now, I can understand that. And that's sort of the way I'm going to be mounting these bearings here. They're going to be sort of loose. And that way, if there's anything out, like let's say humidity changes in the room and the wheel warps a little bit, it doesn't matter. It's still going to work because the bearings are going to be sort of sloppy. Now, in case you're wondering where these little green plastic things came from, I suppose some of you may have recognized them as coming from Lego. I think they used to be plastic trees or something. Okay, that should give me a good idea for the spacing anyway. Let's try it out. Now, in order for the bearings to move in to the teeth as far as I'd like I don't want them just riding on the very tips of the teeth. Well, some of the teeth are too close together, and it's like this one, for instance. It's jamming in that tooth. It just won't go, the bearing just won't go any more further this way. In all likelihood, I'll be using a slightly larger diameter nail here. A little bit of slack in the tolerances is good, but I don't have to go getting all ridiculous over it. So what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to shave just a little bit off, start from about halfway on each tooth and come at an angle, sort of like this. And be careful not to go too far and get into where the glue is giving the tooth strength. Just a little bit on each one. In fact, it doesn't even have to be that far. Maybe a third of the way in. And then at an angle so the blade will exit before it gets to where the glue is giving it strength. At least that's the plan. All I need is just a very, very small amount. There's probably another way to do this. Now, being as that this gear is going to be driving this gear, even if I don't cut really, really good here, the bearing will be being pushed by the good side, the good side, the good side, if you know what I mean. Yeah, I think that's going to work out okay. I had thought of rigging up some sort of jig on the bandsaw and doing it that way and just running the teeth in at an angle. But I already had this jig made up. And I might be taking off just a little bit more than I need to here. The first time that automatic stop thing that I have rigged up there, it was set so that I was hardly taking anything off, and well, now maybe I've got it set a little bit too much the other way. I guess we'll know once we get that wheel removed in episode number 34. Thanks for watching.